Hello random YouTube people. Are you like me and you're in need of removing some sprinklers because of a project? For me, I'm gonna lay some concrete behind me and I need to move the sprinkler lines out of the way so that they're not underneath the concrete. If you have a similar project like this and you wanna know how I did it, stay tuned. Subscribe. So I've already completed this project and I've recorded over 4 hours of footage. And so I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm going to narrow it down to show you the highlights of what I've done so that it will help you in your project. So this here is my house and it's facing north. And so this is the west side, this is the east side. And the east side is where I'm going to lay concrete. All the red area is where concrete's going to be. So you can see that the concrete is going to be laid over top of the sprinklers if I do nothing. And so if there was any issues in the future, I wouldn't have any ability to get to the sprinkler lines underneath. And if I leave the sprinkler box there, it's going to form a weak point with the potential of a crack forming. So that's what I really want to avoid. So in my first idea, I thought about moving the sprinkler box to the side. And so if I come back here to this illustration, you can see that the sprinkler zones in this first box, there's two zones and then this black line. So zone 1 does the front yard, zone 2 does the little park strip area and some in the back, which I use for drip lines for the planter area. And then there's this black line that runs all the way around the house over to this box. This box has 3 valves in it. One does the top of the yard in the back of the yard in the back, and then this last valve, which we won't even need at all anymore because it is in the red area or the concrete area. So my original idea was to move the box over to the side here, but then I still have 2 boxes and I still have this huge line coming over here. So we go all the way from the west side of the house to the east side of the house, only to push the water back to the west side of the house. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous. And I also didn't want this sprinkler controller box wire to stay under the concrete. So I wanted to move it all out of the way. So the new plan is get rid of all the sprinklers in this entire area and then put all 4 valves in the same box with the controller on the side. And later I will actually move the controller inside. So I'm going to run it through into my garage, just like I did for my brine tank video. I have all these nice illustrations now, but I didn't know any of this when I started this project. I just figured it out along the way as I dug everything up. So in your case, you might have to dig things up in order to figure out where they go. But I'm going to continue to show you the process of what I did to move the sprinkling lines out of the way and how I made the other sprinkler valves go into the other box. So I went from a 2 valve to a 4 valve box. It's my little helper today. So we're going to put some concrete right here all the way over to the fence and then from the back all the way to the front yard to the street. So my problem is my sprinkler box. If I were to leave the manifold here, you can see the weight of the trailer wheels sit right there. You'd probably see a nice crack form if I leave this box here. So it's recommended that I remove this completely out of the concrete area. Now this is the other valve box, which is in the front yard. I would love it if I could have all 4 valves right here in this box. You can see that the water comes into valve 1 and comes into valve 2. I would love it if I can just put the 2 valves right here, just bring that manifold right here and have all of my valves in one place. That would be ideal. Good morning, everybody. I'm standing on the grass that's going to become concrete, so the sprinklers in this whole area need to go. And I was up all night last night trying to think about what's the best approach to moving the sprinkler box behind me out of the way. And I had an epiphany. I'm going to move it all the way to the other side. So I was trying to move this box over there, but I came up with a new idea, and that is to completely eliminate the electrical wires on this side of the house. So I'm going to take this and the sprinkling control box on the other side and move it to the other side of the house where all the other valves are, and move these valves over with the other valves. And I'll show you what I mean. All right, I'm in the center of the yard, and so we have water in the front of the yard, or that comes from the city, and then it comes around to the front of the yard to the main sprinkling box over there with the first 1 and 2 valves. And then there's a line that comes all the way around the house and meets up with that box over there. So what I'm going to do is eliminate this completely. And we're gonna have the 1 and 2 in the front working the same as they are. And then I'm gonna have 3 and 4, hopefully in the same box. And those 2 new lines are gonna run out along the fence. And then I'm gonna connect to the back sprinklers here on this side and connect to the front of the sprinklers close to the house right about there. But first I need to dig through and find out where they are connecting on this side so I can cut it off and then follow that line and then make it connect at the end point for both of these lines. So in this backyard area, there's only 2 sprinklers that I need to worry about. So I have a sprinkler over here and way over here. And so that needs to be moved out and probably put right down over here. So I've already gone ahead and dug up this corner. We need another restart. Woo! And so you can see when I pull on this sprinkler, the line is going this way, which probably means it goes all the way down this way to connect to the sprinkler that I will leave here. And so in theory, I can just dig this out and move this whole sprinkler line like this out of the way of the concrete. So the new head would be over here somewhere in line with that. And then move that one over there to be right there. And then I should have good coverage of this area. Just need it. So these are where the wires are coming out from the sprinkler control panel on the other side. And it comes down and it doesn't go as far as they thought. And it looks like it splits off into 2 separate cables. So one goes to my front yard and the other goes to this box back here. So I need to determine which one of these it is. So now you can see I'm just digging down to try to find out where those 2 electrical wires go. Where the wires came down, it followed this sprinkler line all the way, and now it's following the main line going back to the right over to where the sprinkler box is. So I'm gonna have to dig up this whole thing just to follow the electrical cables. I mean, it makes sense why they follow the sprinkling line because this is buried underneath the pipe. So if someone's digging, they're gonna hit this first and not the electrical wires. One thing to note here is I've got a green wire and just wrap around this. It's not being used. And then this is the valve that I'm going to remove. And that is this blue one right here. And then the other ones are the white, yellow, and red. So let's go to the control panel and figure out which these ones are. So here in my garage, those wires come from the outside up to my sprinkler box. To find the wires, I can pop this panel open. And here they are coming up. I don't know if you can tell, but there are 2 separate sets of wires coming up. And so this also shows the zones that it's plugged into. So this is zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have zone 6. And you can see that that green wire wasn't connected to anything. So that's why it's all bundled up here. So zone 5 is the blue, zone 4 is the yellow, and zone 3 is the red. Zone 1 and 2 are in the front yard. So we've got 3 boxes back here. I'm going to be getting rid of zone 5, so the blue right here. So I'm going to take this box out to expose the valves, and I'll continue to dig out these lines to see where they start so that I can cap it off. So the cover is now off of the sprinkler area here. I'm going to, of course, remember we're removing this line completely, and you can see the wire from the control panel comes up and comes around and powers these valve units right here. So I'm going to just undo the wire, and I'm probably going to reuse this wire but on the other side of the house. But what I need to do now is turn off the sprinkling system so that I can... To turn off my sprinkling system, I need to find the backflow preventer underneath this little fake rock and switch the valve. Here's my backflow preventer, and I have a whole nother video on how to replace this thing. But I'm going to turn the water off with this valve here. So the water's still coming up from the city, but it's going to stop here now. Now I need to open up the valves to bleed out the lines, and you can do that by just spinning the valve. Mine have these nice little handles on it, so I'm going to spin valve 1 to drain it. And nothing turned on, so we should be good actually. But go ahead and do it to all of them. Get some of the pressure out, relieved at least. Go ahead and try to bleed these lines as well. Okay, got nothing. So we have no water pressure. So that's good. Nothing. Perfect. Don't really need to worry about this side, but may as well. All right. Some of these manifolds are nice. Some have these little units on both ends, so you can just easily twist off and pull out the valve. But in this case, I'm just taking this off. This is going to spill some water. There is still water in the lines. My hands are getting wet. So there it goes. But now this is detached from this side. All right, so each of these valves have 2 wires like we were talking about. One goes to the common. You can see all of these valves are being wire netted together with the white common wire from the main wire that comes from the control panel. Then each color represents a different valve. So we have this one here comes up and connects to the blue wire. So we know that blue is zone 5. And then we have these ones, let's see, for the second one, the red wire. So the red would be zone 4, meaning yellow is zone 3. But of course we're not doing zone 5 anymore. I'm just unbundling these wires so I can move this manifold to the other side of the house. But that's how these are wired together. So one of the wires gets a color. The other wire from the valve goes to the white, or the common it's called, and all of them are wire netted together, all whites. Makes sense? Hopefully. The other thing I'll point out is these wire nuts are kind of a weatherproof kind. You can buy these at Lowe's, Home Depot, get them on Amazon. They have like a grease on the inside. So you can see all of these have a nice little layer of grease. It's to keep it watertight, get some dust out of there, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna pick up another pack of these when I wire this all back together. And for now, while I'm moving all of these things, I'm just gonna take the wires from the valve and spin them together and put the wire nut back on so that they're all kind of separated. And we don't have a little bundle of wires getting tangled up. So each unit, its wires, is back to its own unit. Just trying to make it clean as I go through this process. All right, all the wires bundled up. Now I can grab the wire that's going from the control panel and just pull this out. You can see I can just pull it out all the way back to the control panel itself. So this is a nice length of wire I can reuse when I put the control panel on the other side of the house. So I went to the plumbing supply store, and I'm pretty sure that these are 1 inch and that these are 3/4 inch. But because I'm not 100% positive, I thought a good thing to do, it's just an easy hack. I'm just gonna cut me a section of each of these pipes, take it with me to the plumbing supply store. There you have it, kind of a hack, but hey, it's gonna do the job. So I'm not gonna complain too much. I've got a lot of extra pipe that I'm not using anyways. So from here, I'm going to follow this main line for a ways, because I'm gonna reuse this line as one of the new valve lines. That line does go all the way back to the other sprinkler box, so we know this is already hooked up and where it should go. I'm also going to follow the lines for these 2 valves here, which feed the backyard, and find out where they go. So I've got this first line I've dug out, and it comes over this way. And you can see it comes all the way over to the start of the concrete. So what I need to do is unhooked it from the manifold. So I'm just gonna take it out and bring it over to here where it's gonna be beyond the concrete. And I'm just gonna let it dangle here for a while until I bury it later. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other line. But that line right now comes over this way, and I haven't dug it out yet. But I'm gonna go as far as to where the concrete's gonna be. And I'll do the same thing, I'll just like that. And then the last part's gonna be trying to find where this main inline comes. I'm hoping it kind of comes along this one here, save me some time. But pretty soon, all the sprinklers will be out of the cement area, and then I can just have time to rebuild my sprinkling system. But this is the important part, getting this lines that will be under the concrete the heck out of the concrete area. So, watch. The sprinkler line is now on the other side, and that length of line will allow me to come all the way to the fence probably, so I can have my additional sprinklers coming off of that. Next, valve 4. Valve 3 is done, now valve 4. Now that most of zone 4 is dug out, I'm just grabbing the line and pulling it out of the concrete area. Now just continuing to dig along zone 4 to see where it starts, so I can cap it off there. But here is the electrical line for the first 2 zones, and it looks like it followed that same path. So I can just sit here and kind of yank on the cord, and it's gonna come free. Here we go. Yep. So I have a lot of extra cord for my new sprinkling control box. I don't need this, I could have left it buried, but at least it's good to know where it goes. Yep, it just follows this line all the way. Good to know. Continuing to dig out the main line, and like I hoped it would, it follows zone 3 and the electrical wires for the sprinkler control box. Woohoo! A lot less digging. Now comes the process of putting the dirt back, so that when the concrete people come, there's not giant holes in the ground. Another DIY guy in training. So this is where that sprinkler box used to be. I have followed the line all the way to the first saddle. That's what these are called. They kind of clamp around your sprinkler line so you can direct it to a smaller hose size. Now this was of course the incoming line, and as you can see it over here. So this was the start of the line. I'm going to make this the end of the line. So what I'm going to do is put in a end cap like this, just straight into the hose. So that's going to stop the line. I'm going to come out about 6 inches, a foot maybe, just in case I want to reuse this. If I need to cut it again, I still have some extra pipe, but this is going to be the end of my line. And so then I'll fill this in and go find the start of the line on the other side of the yard. Now just installing these clamps so that the water pressure doesn't push the end cap off. I'll be using these in several places on this project. Some people recommend to use 2, just to be extra secure. And if you use 2, then you want to have them going in opposite directions, like this. Just filling back in the dirt, and then this line is done. So what I've decided to do for the meantime is I disconnected the section that goes to the backyard, and I put a cap on it. So while I'm digging my holes and getting all the lines ran, I can still run the water for the front yard and not let my grass die. So since I have not disconnected the sprinkler control panel, I can still use the active wires to control the valves in the front yard. As I go, I'm going to pull out the main line and the wire for the control box, and then I'm going to bury the other part of the line back as I go along, just so that this grass doesn't stay up like this for too long. I have some dead grass over there from when I pulled out the other side, you can see. So I'm trying to save the grass somewhat, but I might have to just replace the sod at one point, or just wait till next year. But I really need to get this done and get some water on it so that the grass doesn't completely die. It's already kind of starting to, as you can see. At this point, I do want to put a sprinkler head here. And so I'm going to put a saddle on my valve line. So this is a saddle. It sits on your line like a saddle of a horse. And so you're going to drill a hole into your line and put this here, and it should direct the water up through this little port here. And this for me is a 1/2 inch, and this is called funny pipe or sprinkler pipe. And so I'm going to take this one off a line. This line came from underneath where the trailer is, and so I just cut it. And so I'm going to take this and reuse it so I don't have to buy one. And I'll show you how I put that on. I've gone ahead and sprayed it off so you can get a better look at it. So there's two types of saddles. There's this one that has these bolts on it, and you have to tighten it down with a socket or something like that. And then there's this kind of saddle, and this part just wraps around. Let's see if I can take this all the way off. So this part just wraps around, and of course you still need to drill a hole about that size, which I'm not sure what that size is just yet. Anyways, then this just goes back together and screws on. You don't have to sit there and bolts or anything like that. But what I've seen with these ones, I can't do this. These sit a little bit taller, and so you'll have to dig your line a little bit deeper for this, I believe. As you can see, it sits a bit taller before the attachment, this part goes on. Anyways, this is a lot easier to use, but this one sits a little bit more flush, if you will. My system's already set up with these. I might just stick with this kind, but you do have to have a socket. I believe this one is 14, and yeah, that works. So you can see when I take that saddle off, it's just a hole that they drill right into the pipe. And then that just saddles on, bolts down, and you're good. So we're gonna add this for my new sprinkling head. I went inside my garage and found a drill that's the right size for the hole. I'm not sure what size this is, so I can't really let you guys know that, but I just found one that was the exact size of the hole. In this case, it's gonna be the same size as the saddle too. There you go. Now I'm just going to find the line. This is my line I'm going to put the saddle on, and it doesn't have to be exactly in the same spot because the funny pipe is going to allow you to go any distance that you need it to. So I'm just going to put it in the vicinity here and then run a funny pipe line up to here, and I'm going to put it behind this little post right here. So I'm going to drill straight down in the middle of the line. I'm going to go slow because I don't want debris in the line. Alright, most of that got on the drill bit, and there's my hole. So now I just put the saddle on top and tighten down the bolts. So just make sure that the hole you drilled in your pipe is lined up with the hole here in the saddle. And then you're just going to tighten your bolts, and that should apply enough pressure to make this so that it doesn't leak water. Now just digging the trench for the sprinkler to go up to the post. We're using some funny pipe and cutting it to length. So I've filled in a little trench up to the sprinkler and keep going. This has been hours just to get to this point. Oh. Well, I've come to a point where the main line is going on the other side. I've been pulling it up on the right side here, but it's now going off to the left. So I don't know if they diverge at this point, Or if I've been pulling it out the wrong way the whole time and it would have been better to be pulling it on this side, it might have been easier. So I'm gonna run the line underneath and go from there. Pulling it through. It's harder than it looks. Well, I've gotten to a point where the control wire is underneath the wire that's going to stay here, or the pipe that's going to stay here. So I'm going to have to go take this off from the controller box so that I can run it through. So let's go show you how I do that. Well, I'm a moron. This wire is actually the one that I'm not even going to be using anymore at all. The wires going for 1 and 2 are the wires that I'm digging out right now. So if I unplug these to undo that little tangle in the yard, then I can't use my valve 1 and 2 to water the front yard right now. For now, I think I'm going to leave this hooked up and I'm going to continue to dig. I don't know how many times that wire is going to wrap around again. Hopefully that's the only one, but we'll have to see. I really need to get all this digging done. I am so exhausted. My legs hurt. So far, I've successfully moved the line all the way from back there by the trailer, all the way around the front of this patio and around to the side. I still have to go all the way around the side of the house there because the sprinkler box is on the other side. But while I'm at this point, I'm going to start digging over here. I already put the end to this line over there. I'm going to find where the end point is here and make it the start point. But I have to dig out the sprinkler in the corner and follow it until I find a place where perhaps the line ends. Well, this is not what I was expecting, but this looks like the end of the line, and at the end of the line they just put an elbow on it and sent it out to the corner sprinkler head. So I think that this is the end of the line. So if that's the case, this is where I need to connect my main line from the sprinkler box coming all the way down to here, and that should power the rest of the lines. But that's what that looks like to me. I was expecting another saddle piece, but instead I see what looks like the end of the line. So I'm going to make that the start of this backyard line. Digging back on this main line again, and I ran into a snag. Off of this sprinkler line, the house side sprinkler line, there's a saddle, and I just pounded into this elbow piece here and busted it pretty good. And then the line for the elbow goes over the manifold line that I'm trying to pull out of the ground. So I'm gonna have to probably detach this because I need to put a new one on anyways, and maybe I can just lift it up and pull that out instead of having to dig this whole line out just to pull this line underneath. You'll never know what you're gonna find, but work your way around it. All right, folks, game plan is I'm gonna undo these nuts like I showed you earlier and have the top of the saddle come off. Then I'll be able to unscrew this piece and try to maneuver this so it comes out of the line without me having to cut slits in it. All right, so I loosened this bolt here and it has on a pivot. So I just did that and I pulled and it went around that other side of the pipe and now it's off. So I'm gonna try to get this unhooked without trying to cut this. I'm trying to save this line. All right, I was able to wiggle out that elbow piece. Hopefully I didn't loosen this too much to cause a leak, but I've got a new elbow piece I'm going to use. But first, while I'm here, I'm going to pull the main line out of the way. And then, in theory, I don't need to dig up this line at all. Hopefully it will just clamp right back on and easy peasy. Now I really thought that I would have met the end of the line when I met this saddle here, but it's still going. I really have no idea where it's going from here. There's a sprinkler head right there, but it's on a different line. There's a sprinkler head over here. I don't know if that's what it is. I guess we'll find out here. So I decided to dig that up. And as you can see, it's like the other one. The end of the line comes to an elbow, and then it goes off to the funny pipe into the sprinkler head. So this has to be the end of that line. Just another good example of why you should turn your valves on first and note and mark down each and every single one of your sprinkler heads so you know which line they're on and where to expect them to be. So I'm learning as I go here because I forgot to do that before I turned off my sprinkler boxes and started digging it out. So remember, turn your sprinklers on, map them out so you know where they're at, and it'll be a lot easier for you. Now that's the end of this line, so I'm going to undo the sprinkler head here and move the pipe up like this to go towards the sprinkler box. And then when it comes down, I'll have a saddle that goes out to it, but I'm actually going to move it from here to down here. But this whole area is yellow, so I'm going to move it right here, and then it will be in line with the other ones. So it'll all be spraying down into the back of the yard. And then these are all done on valve number 2, the sprinklers that spray over here. So I'm not sure why that one was ever over there in the first place. I'm going to start digging back in the other direction, expecting that it's going to meet up with that trench over there. Progress. You'll have to forgive the girls jumping on the tramp next door. You can see this line is the end of the line, and it comes here, and it's going to come back and meet up with that. And then the line that I'm pulling out of the ground is going to start to diverge right there. So I know exactly where my lines are going now. What the? That doesn't make any sense. Right when I thought I was all done, I get thrown this curveball. What in the world is this line? I've got my 2 pipes right here, and then this one's running over it. I thought this was the manifold line. My best guess is that this is the line for zone 2, and it's coming up and going to this little guy right there. So I was not expecting this. Going to pull the end of line 3 out of the way, and then pull the manifold line straight because it's going to connect to zone 4. It's getting late, so I'm going to fill in as much grass as possible for now. Well, good morning. I'm making good progress. I think at this point, since I've exposed the endpoints of both of the sprinkler lines, I'm going to start working from the sprinkler box back down, because the sprinkler box is where a lot of utilities are, and I want to make sure that I'm careful with that and avoid any utilities and make sure that everything's good before I continue down this path to run my new lines. I've dug out the sprinkler box, and here are my 2 valves that are currently active, and there is water flowing through them right now. And that's the line that I'm going to follow into the backyard, and I'm going to run another line with it. So one's going to be valve 3, one's going to be valve 4, because I need to dig a hole underneath this curbing so that I can run the second line as well, all the way into the backyard. And I just need to be careful right here, very careful, because there's utilities right here. There's gas, there's Comcast coming in, there's CenturyLink and electrical for the house. So I just need to make sure that as I follow this line, I'm not destroying any other lines. So I will dig very, very carefully. I have had blue stakes come out in the past for other projects, so I know for a fact that there's stuff here. But if you're doing this project for the first time, you might want to call, I believe it's 811, and they can come out and do blue stakes in your yard. It's completely free. That's just so that you know you're not running into any kind of issues. So let's keep digging. Before I start digging, I'm going to turn off the water for this whole system so I don't have any issues. Turning off the water on my brand new backflow preventer. I have a video how I installed this and replaced this whole system. Check it out. I'll try to put a little link right here. I don't know if I can do that. I'll try to figure it out. I've bored myself a nice little hole underneath the curbing so that I can run the line underneath. and follow the same path as the other lines. This is what I was warning about. You got to check for other utilities. Blue stake should help. I cut that line, but I'm pretty sure that this is the sprinkler line. Let's do a test. If that pulls, see if I can pull it out through the dirt. I'm gonna pull on this and see if that moves. Yep. All right, so that's the sprinkler. So I got a ding in it right there. But you know, this line is so long that I don't really need to worry about it. I can cut the part off to where I need it. But just gonna keep following this curved line right here, which is right here. I've dug a little hole so I can run my new line underneath this. I'm not sure if this is this sprinkler line, line 2. Confirmed that this is sprinkler valve 2. We're coming to another saddle, which powers a sprinkler over here. And so somehow sprinkler valve 2 goes and waters the park strip in the front. I'm guessing if I were to dig up this section, I would find that there's a T-piece and part goes this way and part goes that way. I've officially dug all the way around the house. That's a lot of work. Been out here for 3 days. So now I'm just going to get my new lines and start building the new manifold. If you remember, this valve here that's connected to this line is the one that's going to become valve 3, and I don't need the valve on this end of the line anymore. And so I see there's also a saddle right here at the very end of the line, right by the fence. So I'm just gonna probably cut it off right here and put a cap on it and then call it good for this line. And I'll need to come back and rebury this line too. I just don't know if I'm gonna do that before or after concrete comes. But then I can use this valve in the new valve box. I've tightened down those clamps and I put them in opposite directions, like I've heard that you're supposed to. And that's probably, I don't know, 1.5 feet from the first, or the last saddle on the line, I guess. So I'm just gonna bury that all the way to the fence. And if I need to reuse this in the future, I can just tap back into it. Now taking the valve back over to the valve box. So this is the line over here that we've been digging up the whole time that we're going to turn into zone 4. Then this will be zone 3. This is what we cut off of what is now zone 3 that I capped off, and we'll use this valve to be zone 4. We're going to connect those together, and then this will be zone 3. And then we just need to have the extra pipe connect from here to the rest of zone 3, and we should be good. Let's plan this out. So this is the line I was going to do as valve 3, and that goes all the way over to the fence. Let's just move this for now for illustration purposes. Okay, and then valve 4 needs to come down and connect there. This is the pipe that we've been pulling out along the way the whole time, which is the pipe with the manifold on the other end. You can see there's just a bundle of pipe down there. I've got plenty of pipe. I do have plenty of pipe. I just need sections to connect these two together. This is the end we're going to run through that hole we dug underneath the curbing. So let's go ahead and pull this over and start running it underneath. Valve 3 is now ran underneath the curbing, and we're just going to make sure we run it along the path of the trench we just dug, and we'll bury it and make it better later. Oh, I need to run it underneath that first. All right, now that I ran it under that line there, now I can run it along the path of this trench we just dug. I'll of course go back through and pretty it up so that's right next to the existing line here. But for now, that's gonna work great. Now we just need a section of pipe to connect the end of valve 3 to this pipe here. I just of course need to cut the end off and then use the male-to-male union pieces here and there. It would be better of course if this is one big piece, but if I can reuse what I already have instead of buying new stuff, I'm all for it. So this is what we're going to need to do for the ends of zone 3 to connect the pipes together. Look what I found, another length of pipe. That should just be the perfect size. This one I took 2 saddles off, so there's a hole here and then on the other end here. But even if I cut those off, it should be plenty of line to complete zone 3. Cutting the pipe just before that first saddle hole. If you don't have any of these pipe cutters, they're pretty awesome. I'd highly recommend them. Same thing for the other side. Bingo. Now I just need to get my male-to-male union pieces. It's a hot day and the AC just kicked on. That's the noise you hear. But before I go get these union pieces, I really need to cut this piece off too. I'll reuse this sprinkler head, but I'm going to replace this funny pipe. It's got this weird connection section I don't like. And I've got plenty of extra funny pipe too. So let's go ahead and cut this off as straight as possible. Boom. We'll keep the sprinkler head for later. But now we're just gonna connect the line with the extra pipe. So here's the male-to-male union piece I'm gonna use to connect the lines together. And of course, add the clamps as well. Just like this. And there we are. The male-to-male connection is inserted. I had to twist the line back and forth a little bit to get those to go through, but they also have the nice clamps on there that are all tightened up. All right, now I need to connect these lines together again with my union piece. But in order to ensure that I don't have a whole lot of slack, I'm gonna go ahead and put the manifold together first, and then I know exactly how long this needs to be. I'm wanting to put the sod back, so I'm going to go unplug this line from the sprinkler control box so that I can run it out, and then I'm going to try to go plug it back in so my front yard sprinklers still work. Push up and pull down. Stay tuned. Now that everything's unhooked from the little terminals, I'm going to pull the lines out to the outside. One of these lines I'm not using anymore, and the other I need to fish through underneath that pipe. Now comes the fun part. Rebuilding the manifold. Here's the new 1-inch manifold that has 4 valves. I need to first take the cap off that I used to plug the system and put it on the end here, like so. Next, I need to unhook it from here. It's just a simple twist off, but I also need to disconnect the valves by twisting these. And then I need to unhook the wiring for this because I'm going to redo it anyways. So I need to spin these 3 and then undo the wires, just like I did with the other valves. Valves disconnected. Old manifold taken off. Screwing on the new 4-valve manifold. Before I tighten this all the way, I'm going to go ahead and line up these 2 just so that I can make sure everything's nice and square before I start tightening down. First 2 valves seem nice and tight. Now to do valve number 3. And if you'll remember, this one is the new line that I ran, so I can move it up and down freely and line it up just as I need to. Now for valve number 4. This one, of course, doesn't have an end to it, so I need to spin this part out, the connector piece, before I can rotate this on. And I also need to cut this line at some point so that it lines up correctly with the new valve. So keep in mind that a new piece like this needs to go inside here, and I'm going to clamp it on, and that all needs to fit within this space. Well, that piece was easier to spin off than anticipated, so I can just toss this piece, don't need it anymore. New valve to 1-inch line connection piece screwed in tight. The tool I'm using is not the best with the teeth, but that's what I got. It'll do the job, it just leaves the little nasty marks on there. But I think I'm going to dry fit this on and guesstimate on the length where I need to cut the pipe. Kind of work with what you got. I licked my finger and I wiped off some of the dirt where I think I need to cut it. So unscrewing, so that'll make it easier to connect this line. I need to remember to put the clips on first. These ones use these other kind of clamps, but I'm going to use those ones I've been using. But I need to make sure I put those on first. And that, random YouTube people, is how you get it done. 2-valve manifold, now a 4-valve manifold. Just did a dry fit of the box, and you know what? That should be just fine. Plenty of room to spin the valves, and it lines up great. Wiring the valves is very straightforward. There are 2 wires. It does not matter which one's which. They're the same, as long as one gets wired into the white of the common and the other one gets wired to a color of your choosing. So all of these valves, all 4, the white, are all going to be combined together into what's called the common, and then each one gets a color, and it doesn't really matter which color you use as long as you wire up the correct color at the sprinkler box for the correct valve. So this is valve 1, valve 2, valve 3, valve 4. So in the spirit of 4th of July, I figured I'd start with red and blue, or blue, red, and then green and yellow. I'll first be starting with the blue line, so I've got blue and white, and then I need to untwist this cap. And I got some new ones so that they're fresh and brand new, where these have lots of dirt in them. So I'm going to wipe off the lines as well, but one of these gets wired to white, one to blue. Here are the wires for the first valve, and you can see one was stripped a little longer than the other. So I'm going to use the longer one for the common and the shorter one for the color, which is blue in this case. Here's the white line. I'm not going to put a cap on it until all of the other lines are wired onto the white or the common as well. Blue twisted on, now time for a cap. The green and yellow lines were not used before, if you'll remember, for this first set of valves for the wires, so I'm going to strip those and continue. There we are, the lines have been stripped, and just so you know, these are 16 gauge wires, so you can put it on the number 16 on your wire cutters and that'll work great. Now that everything's wired up, I'm going to drop the sprinkler box on top so that when I'm digging my trench, that no dirt gets down into this hole. I already measured it and it should drop right in here, but I'm going to make sure that the wire is on the outside of the box, not coming up through the hole, because that's just not how it's supposed to work. You might want to wrap the wires around the manifold. I didn't do that. I don't really want to undo everything, but I mean, I could always undo it at any time to give myself some extra slack. So I'm going to put the lid on and then dig my trench here. Now that valve 3 is hooked up to the manifold, I can kind of give it a tug, and then this line is the rest of line 3. I'm not going to tighten it too much, but I don't want to have too much slack either. So about there, probably be great. Just like that, line 3 is complete. The last thing. But this is what's going to become zone 4, and there's plenty of extra pipe here. So I'm just going to need to plan out a route from here, maybe dig all the way down, and then connect to this piece here, cut it off, put a male-to-male union, and then put in a saddle, which is going to send this pipe back to the corner. I'm going to take this line and kind of send it up on this angle, I think, to connect to the pipe. So that's a nice curve for the water to flow, and that should be awesome. I really need to get this done. Look how yellow this is. It's really bad. Look at that. If I would have had the sprinklers running, I think it wouldn't have gotten this bad. Here I've started to dig a trench for the Zone 4 line. Now just continuing to dig to connect Zone 4 from the manifold to the existing Zone 4 line in the backyard. I have my line curved up to meet with the line coming out of the sprinkler box for Zone 4, and this is where they meet. So I'm just going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to cut the line where I need to and join these two together. And then I need to add a saddle over here to go to the sprinkler in the corner, and then another saddle here to go to the fence to water this whole area. Now the line is now complete for Zone 4. I'm going to add my first saddle on the line for Zone 4, which is going to be right here. All about conservation in this project. I'm going to reuse these 1/2-inch sprinkler lines that I dug up from over here where the concrete's going to go. Sweet. This extra piece of pipe should be just long enough if I take the trench across like that. Gnarly. This is why I don't like these quick connect saddles. It sits up so high. I'm already running back up, so I need to dig this down way deeper if I'm going to try to use this one. So I decided to sit and drench this trench in water so that I could dig deeper. And so now I don't know if you can tell, but I'm using this old piece as a guide here. You can see it sits quite a bit lower in the ground. I think that will be fine. And this is the self-piercing kind. And this is what's recommended by the plumbing store instead of that other saddles with the bolts and screws. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this and do the self-piercing method instead of pre-drilling a hole. Don't do that. I learned my lesson. But I dug deep because I want to use these kinds, and I want it to go vertical because they tell me that they don't do well on the side. So now I know, and now you know. So dig deep and go up. Self-tapping saddle, base piece wrapped around the pipe. Now tighten down the top. Starts to get pretty hard to turn. Might have to get some kind of wrench. This is really a wrench in my hands. Yep.
It's you, beautiful. Is it really beautiful?
I think that's pretty tight. I'm not sure exactly how tight to go. I don't want to break this. It's already starting to kind of turn white. So I don't want to break it too much, but I don't want it to leak either. So we're going to have to see if I've done it tight enough. Going to do a leak test again. I've got both of these saddles set up. So let's go and turn on the water and see if we have any leaks. This one I think is going to leak, but the other one maybe not. This one went on a lot harder than the other. So we'll see. All right, hopefully this is the last time I'll have to do this as a test. Let's go ahead and open this up. There we go. All right. Got water action going. Let's see if we have any leaking at those saddles. No leaks. Awesome. What about the other one? It's going through the water. No leaks. All right, perfection. So these go vertical and you don't pre-drill a hole. These are self-tapping. So that's how you do it the right way. Well, everything is working. Just need to cut this line a little bit shorter and bury everything. And we're all done, except for the line over there, which I haven't decided if I want to do that before concrete or after. But everything is working. All right, random YouTube people, I'm gonna change the plan on you again. But I hope this is what people like about my channel, is that I don't just say do this, do this, do this. I explain kind of the situation and explain how I go through the process of solving the situation. So I was gonna put the sprinkler box out here. I told you that it's all the way on the other side of the house inside the garage, and that if the wires stay where they're at, they're gonna end up under the concrete I'm gonna pour. But the wires do run all the way around the house, and they could stop here and I could put a box right here and everything would be great. And it is an outdoor sprinkler box. However, I just had a thought, and let me explain that to you. So right by our sprinkler valve box, which is gonna house all 4 valves, there is this section of the house. So it's right before the fence that goes into the backyard. We have our gas lines and things like that. We have a spigot for water. A little bit ago I had fiber ran, and they ran the fiber right here and they drilled into the house. Now that goes right to the place of the part of the house where I used to have my brine tank for my water softener. And if you remember from a video previously, which I will try to show up here, that I moved the brine tank from the basement into the garage. And so if I can drill in here and pass the wires from the sprinkler box into the house here, or maybe here, then I can take that line and run it along the same path that the water softener hose goes to go into the garage. So I can have my sprinkler box still in the garage, but in this the garage side closer to this area. And so I think that's the plan I'm gonna go. Let me show you the line path that I was talking about. So this black line that you see right there is the fiber optic cable, and it's hard to get a video of that section of it without a light shining there. But there's a hole right there that's coming in that I just showed from outside. So the wire's coming in, and I have it coming down into my networking box. And I have another video about this. So I have the video where I move the salt brine tank for the water softener into the garage. And you can see that there's this hose right here that goes up right about there, and it comes over, and eventually it is right here. And so this is the line that goes to the brine tank, and I have it running all the way with this particular electrical wire, and it goes up and into the garage right there with this power cord. So this is the brine tank line going into the garage. Then on the other side of the garage, I have it coming into this PVC pipe, and it runs along the wall, and it goes right here into the brine tank in the back. So if I can pass that line either inside this PVC pipe or drill another hole above here and have a second PVC pipe for my sprinkling box, I can bring it up here to this power outlet, and I can have it right here in my garage. And what's nice about this is this is the 2-car garage. The sprinkler box now is clear on the other side of that wall, way the heck over there. So if I'm working on the sprinkling system, I can just walk straight in instead of having to come in and going around the trucks and all that stuff, or going all the way over to the other side of the house to come in. When the sprinklers are on this side of the house, I'd rather not go to that side of the house. And, you know, first world problems. But if I can drop the sprinkling box right here with this outlet, then we should be good. But you can see every house is different. Each scenario is going to be different in every house. So this kind of video can't be a do this, do this, do this. You have to figure it out. You have to determine what's going to work best for you. I've shown you there's 3 options I could do. Leave it where it is, but the wires are going to be covered by concrete. Put it on the side of the house over there, which is totally fine. The box will be in direct sunlight in my situation. And of course, it's exposed to the elements, so the plastic over time can get deteriorated and things like that, crack, break open. And then I have the option of running it into my garage through the path that I just showed. So I have to choose between those 3 options. And I think I'm gonna go with the last option, which allows me to have the sprinkler box still inside the house, but have it on the west side of the house instead of the complete opposite adjacent end of the house. Now it's time to take this control panel off the wall. I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but let's figure it out. I should unplug it here Right. Where'd it go? Oh, it is unplugged. How is it working? It's still got power. Must be battery operated. Let's pull this tab. All right, I can see that there's a screw down there, but that's not the only thing it's hooked to. I'm going to start with this bigger one at the bottom. Just undo that. Okay, just putting that off to the side. Yeah, it's pretty loose now. Oh, it just lifts up off. Makes sense. So there's a screw on the wall already, and then that screw from the inside. And I don't need to take this apart, but I'm sure that's where the hidden battery is back there, because this thing still has power. But let's go move it to the other side. Going to take this PVC pipe off the wall and the little service entrance elbow panel down here at the bottom. And I'll probably be reusing those, so let's go ahead and take them off. Then I'm going to need to patch this hole. I'm gonna get some spray foam and things like that because it goes all the way through to the other side of the house. So don't really want bugs and other things getting in, maybe rodents, whatever. So gonna get some spray foam from the store. I got myself a hole patch kit and I'm just gonna patch up this hole really quick and I'll come back and pretty it up later. It's a scorcher today. So like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm gonna come in right here, kind of like how the fiber is coming in. Now I'm gonna go downstairs in the basement and see where this pipe is and where the fiber is coming in. If I can put it over here, that'd be great. I just don't wanna drill in and hit the fiber line. That would be awesome. So I'm thinking maybe over here. We'll see, let's go downstairs. So here's the exterior water spigot entering the house. Here's the fiber optic line. So I could come between it. It looks like there's a good gap, so I could probably miss that fiber cable. Or I can do it on the other side. There's plenty of room over here as well. There's nothing in this area. So I'd like it to be kind of keep the utilities close together and run a line just next to the fiber. I think that might be a good idea, but to be safer, I should probably go over here. Trying to decide if I like this look this look, where it's just right next to the fiber over there. It's more out of the way, but run the risk of snagging the line. I don't want to do that. You know what, everyone? Here's the gas line. There's what looks like a grounding line here, but I could come in over here. There's nothing over there as long as I come in past this little ground. And then it would really be out of the way and you wouldn't see it. It would be behind the plants and out of the way. That's another idea. Yeah, what if I came in over here? Then it's really out of the way. Wouldn't see it. And as we saw, there's a big empty area over here. The ground wire is probably about right here. So I come in over here, closer to the drain pipe. Should be fine. Now this is just for illustration purposes. To line up with where the fiber is going in, the service entrance box will be just under this part of the siding here. The hole for that port on the service entrance elbow piece is about 1.25 inches outer diameter. So this whole drill bit that I have is just about the right size. And then I'll use my longer drill bit, which I have right here. This is a 1 inch, and that should be able to fit the pipe I have through there. 3/4 inch, which is the outer diameter of the pipe, is just too small actually for that size drill bit. So I'm going to go a little bit bigger at 1 inch. And of course I'm going to caulk it from the outside and probably spray foam from the inside. You'll see where I'll be drilling the hole comes right in between this little arch piece for the gas line. I have it lined up with the top of the siding. And let's go ahead and start our drilling. It'd be hard to film this at the same time. There we are. The hole in the siding has been cut You can see that that is inside this little hole drill bit there, that piece of siding. I might try to reuse this piece actually when I try to patch the other side. Can't tell that from here, but we are through to the other side. Let's go downstairs in the basement and check it out. And there we are. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Came through well out of the way of anything else. And I'm gonna run my little PVC pipe through the hole here. I think it'll just be easier to guide the line in. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the service elbow outside. As I was lining up the service elbow piece, I have my PVC pipe going down, and I was going to dig out the dirt to drop the line underneath. And there's this silver box thing. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if it has to do with the gas line, which is running right here. So I'm going to run my cords up and over that and behind the downspout for the drain, and then over to the sprinkler box. But right now I'm going to take off these screws so I can get access to running the wire through the house. I have my little PVC pipe extension piece attached, and I'm just going to insert this into the hole. That's what she said. Just like this. And now we're going to grab that piece of wire and start feeding it through into the house. I've run the wire behind the plants and behind the little downspout and into the bottom of this PVC pipe. I've given myself some extra slack here at the bottom, and now I'm just going to push the wire through the hole into the basement. I've ran the bulk of that cable in through the hole into the house, and I have a little bit of extra here popping out, as well as a little extra on the ground. And once I get everything pulled through, I'll tighten that up as I go. Not exactly what I was expecting to see. I was thinking it would have come down here, but let's go ahead and pull that out. I need to find the start of that line. Here's the start of the line. And I'm going to run it up through the holes here. Over on the other side where it goes into the garage, you can see there's an electrical power cable to the outlet, and then the water softener line here. I should say the brine tank line. And it goes in this hole. Let's see if I can get a better view. It goes in right there. You see that kind of gray thing on the other side? That's where the line is running right into the garage. So I might be able to feed my wire right into that existing pipe. If I can connect to the existing PVC pipeline, that would be really cool. I would have less things in the garage, but we're gonna have to figure that out. As I get a closer look, I can see that this brine tank tubing is pretty thick, and I don't think I'm going to be able to fit it and the wires for the control box in the same pipe. So I'm gonna probably go from the outside and drill a hole right above it and come in that way instead. The wires all completely ran into the garage. I cut the top piece off of my new elbow piece and just trying to do a dry fit. That should probably be just fine. Might have to knock out the drywall a little bit more right here so that the back sides line up better, but I went with these instead of the junction box piece, wherever that went, just because I didn't know any better. Ran the wire through the angled piece, and now I'm gonna go through my straight piece, which I'm gonna have to cut at about right here. I think I'm gonna go up the stud and mount my box there. With my 2-inch pipes lined up, I've gone ahead and said, where do I want my pipe to come out? Right here. And so I'm going in and I'm marking where the end of the insert is. And so it should be about there that I give you the cut. That's pretty much perfect. So now to run the wire through it. Need to knock a little bit more out here because it's flush, it doesn't line up. It's flush here, it doesn't line up here. So I'm gonna knock some more out there, hoping that I don't hit my wire. Now that the wire's in the plastic tubing, it should be more safe as I knock this part out. Then I'll spray foam from the other side, if I can at least, and then I'll patch it up, of course. No worries. If you are doing this, I wouldn't recommend using these. It's just a pain in the butt to try to widen the hole so you can compensate for the arch. Just use a junction box like this. It would make life a lot more easy, but I just didn't know any better at the time when I was running this line for the brine tank. But I'm learning more every day so that you can learn from me. There we are, that's much better. Kind of have an alternating color sequence going on too. But I'm gonna paint these walls all white and this white eventually anyways, so not a big deal. It's a thing of beauty. Now to determine how high I want the sprinkler box to be. The other one was like measured up to the bottom of this outlet here, so I might do the same. Put the bottom of the box at the height of the outlet. I drilled my first top hole. I measured the top and just came down a little bit. And now, not that it matters too much, but just for aesthetics purposes, making sure that this is flat before I drill the inside, right here. Now I'm going to sit and measure the down pipe. I don't want it to come into the box too high. Oh, I'm an idiot, guys, I'm an idiot. It's not centered, it's off-centered. I gotta move my box over a little bit. There it is. Well, it's harder than it looks to get this to be level and get this to be lined up vertically with the bottom, but I'm sure with a lot of patience as well, you can figure it out. Next, to run the wires up through this little conduit right here. I've gone through and buried the line as best I could with these plants in the way. It probably needs to be down another 6 inches in the ground, but it is what it is for now. So I have it running up here and I'm gonna get rid of the extra slack so I can pull it through to the other side. I'll give myself just a little bit of slack in the box. Now that all the slack's been pulled through, I'm gonna cut the line to about here and then take the outer sheathing off till it right here where it enters the box, and then go ahead and wire it up just like I showed you when taking it off. So the white's gonna go into the common, and then it's gonna go blue, red, green, yellow. I've got it all wired up, and now I'm trying to run a test. I have zone 1 going, but nothing's happening. So I've got an issue. It could be that I don't have it plugged in. I'm still not sure why this is working, even though it's not plugged in. Let's give it a try. Hopefully that'll fix my problem. And there we go. So zone 1 working. I've got this on 2-minute timers at the box. And so I'll let this run and make sure that every zone works. You don't know how excited I am. My grass hasn't been watered for like 2 weeks now, maybe more. That nice H2O. And there's zone 2 firing off. And there goes zone 3. And zone 4. Looks like it's spraying pretty good. This head needs to be replaced. But the sprinkler's working. But I mean, the system works. So we'll go ahead and tuck these wires up in here. And there you have it. Project is complete, other than burying that one line. But like I said, I'm probably gonna wait for concrete. Look at all this extra wire that I didn't need. I would really like to have a conversation with the guy who installed the sprinkling system for it before. That's so much extra wire. Last and final thing is just to put all the dirt back around my new 4-valve sprinkling box. We are done, random YouTube people. So our sprinkler box is now all buried, and it is a 4-valve instead of a 2-valve. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Well, look at this. the grass is already starting to come back. It's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe. Now that yellow grass is now green.